Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Doyle. I'm a member of the Rowing History Project team, part of the public service mission of the head of the Schuylkill Regatta. With me today is a special guest. Her name is Dotty Brown, and she is the author of the 2016 book, Boathouse Row: Waves of Change in the World of American Rowing. Dotty's book has been widely acclaimed by the rowing community in Philadelphia and around the country. Dotty is a storyteller, and the stories that she tells about the personalities on the history of Boathouse Row, and along with the cultural movements that have shaped rowing in not just in Philadelphia, but in the United States, have really been spectacular. Dotty, welcome to the Rowing History Project.
Thank you, and that's a great intro. I really appreciate it.
Dotty, tell me a little bit about your background. You are a journalist by trade, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I went into journalism, and I came to Philadelphia in 1972 when my husband got an internship at Children's Hospital. And anyway, I fell in love with the city. We've stayed here our entire lives. And I left the Inquirer in 2011. After I had started rowing, I got into rowing because my neighbor across the street, who happened to be Ellen Carver, she has since moved, but she started rowing. Ellen, as you know, runs the head of the Schuylkill. And so I got jealous, and I said, I want to row. And she said, well, you have to take lessons. So I did. So there I am. I had taken lessons. I'm on the river. I'm a member of Vesper. I had left the Inquirer. And out of the blue, Temple University Press came to me and said, nobody's ever written a history of Boathouse Row. Are you interested? And I thought to myself, well, no publisher will ever come to me again and ask me to write a book, as an unpublished person. But I didn't want to write a book about many champions, this champion and that champion. While champions are wonderful, I didn't think I wanted to spend several years doing that. I didn't think the public would be interested in a book like that. So I went to some of the archives we have in Philadelphia, at the Library Company and the Historical Society, and I found the Constitution of the Bachelor's Barge Club from 1853. And I was shocked to learn from the Constitution that you had to be a bachelor to join, something people today don't even know, and that you lost your voting rights once you got married. So that was so quirky that I just plowed in, and I found all kinds of interesting information about rowing in the 19th century, and interesting characters who came along the way. Thomas Aikens, the painter, who lived 6 blocks from the river and, of course, painted his best high school friend, Max Schmidt, in a very famous rowing painting at the Metropolitan Museum. So I told the story of the 1870s around that. And anyway, I could go on and on, the Kellys, and there are just so many stories I found. And they fascinated me. It sort of changed my life. It became my retirement project. So...
Well, it's a wonderful, wonderful book, and everybody who has read it sings its praises. It's really, really a great read. And you are here doing a book signing.
That's right.
At the Regatta.
Yeah, I keep coming back. It's fun.
I see a long line of people in front of your table there. Now, full disclosure, you are a colleague of mine on the Rowing History Project.
Right.
We work together. And you're a member of Vesper Boat Club, and we work together on assisting the Vesper Boat Club with the preservation of their collection, and with ultimately creating a digital archive of their collection, which is now online on the Rowing History Project website. Tell us about your experience on the Rowing History Project and where you think we're going. Is what we're doing important for preserving American rowing history?
Yeah, so one of the things that really got me involved happened while I was writing my book, actually. Ellen had in her house the log books and the minute books from the Vesper Boat Club from the 1800s. And the book was sort of wrapped up in cellophane with the leather binder in little pieces coming off. And I said, this is crazy. The book is really falling apart. Well, it hadn't been placed anywhere. It hadn't been preserved. So I guess our project really started as a rump group of people from a few of the boathouses who were really concerned about these very precious books that were crumbling in front of our eyes. And so we started trying to get the clubs to focus on where to put these materials so that they would survive, like in museums and the history, various historical archives. Anyway, that evolved into the idea that we couldn't have space for all this stuff in any place that we could afford to keep up, like a brick wall, walls museum. That the best solution would be to digitize everything and get it online. And so that's how we got going. And that was my passion, really, was to make sure this stuff didn't just crumble into dust and go away. Because the stories inside those books and the stories of the trophies and all those stories are so fascinating. And if the books die and the people die, the stories are gone, Yeah. So.
And Hilary Langer from Vesper and I took those logbooks to Backstage Library Works up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and they were recently digitized, and they're on the Rowing History Project website.
It's fabulous. It's really, it's so worth the effort and the money to do all that.
I always thought it was interesting in our team meetings. You've always been saying that things like the logbooks and the meeting minutes and those sorts of documents are really the key to the story. And it's not that medals and trophies are unimportant, but it's that the human story is in those stories, first original
I could tell
documents.
A couple right now that I found.
Please do.
So the Philadelphia Skating Club, which is the one of the oldest buildings still remaining on Boathouse Row. In the summer, it was used by the rowing clubs. In the winter, it was used by skaters. So there were a couple rowing clubs that were squished into that building. And in the minute books of the Undine Barge Club, which is one of the clubs that was, at that time, didn't have their own house. So they were living in the summers, they were living in that, rowing out of the skating club.
Yeah.
So one of according to the minutes, a couple guys cornered, that's the word they use, they cornered the market on the lockers, okay? And so they were reselling or re-renting the lockers, of which there was very limited space, at a much higher price. So when the officers found out about that, they had this huge meeting. What are we going to do about these guys? They're cheating people. So they punished them, somehow got control of the lockers back. But I believe, and I don't think anybody's ever written this except I did in my book, that the reason that Undine, when they finally built their house, has the largest locker room on Boathouse Row,
yes,
is because of that. So that's a little story, but, it was there. I mean, another story is routinely they would post the names of rowers who were failing to pay their dues. They'd post the names on the doors of the boathouses, hoping they would embarrass them to paying their dues. Exactly, shaming them. And then they had receipts in the books for how much they were spending on whiskey and cigars. That was a big deal. And punishments for bringing women into the boathouses when they weren't supposed to be there. So it's story after story that you could find in these minute books. They're just fascinating.
You talked earlier about bachelors, mm-hmm. and how in the charter of bachelors it stipulates that you have to be a bachelor. Well, I'm with the Pennsylvania Barge Club also, and a similar type of cultural thing was happening there. The Ernest Bear in 1928, when he was getting prepared for the Olympics, he actually wanted to get married to Ernestine, but he felt as though he couldn't announce that to the world because if you were married, you weren't considered to be contributing to the boat, and he was afraid he would lose his seat in the Olympic boat. So he and Ernestine they eloped. They eloped, and they didn't announce that they were married until Ernest came back from the Olympics in Amsterdam and had a party on that night. And the shell, by the way, was filled with bottles of champagne from Europe, and because this was during Prohibition. But yes, that's interesting how the culture has changed so drastically.
I didn't know about the party and the champagne, but I did find their wedding announcement in the September 1928 issue of one of the newspapers.
Yeah.
And I heard a different story about why they didn't want to announce their engagement, well, their marriage, their elopement into New York. And that was told to me by their daughter, who was also Ernie, Tina Bear. You know, she was also Ernestine, but Tina Bear told me that it was believed at the time that if a man had sex, it would diminish his strength.
Yes.
And he was afraid that he would not be allowed to go to the Olympics if they knew that he was married. So that's another reason they may have. So some of this, you know, a lot of the stories that come down on Boathouse Row are not just from the books. You've got to interview the people. And that's what we're doing. And that's why this project is so great that we're doing right now.
Dotty, the future of the book. Do you have any new versions of the book coming out? Do you have any new publications in the works now?
So there are no new versions of the book, but I do have a blog. It's on my website, boathouserowthebook.com, where I continue to write stories when they come to me. So there are a bunch of stories there that either have happened since the book or that I've uncovered since the book. So they stay alive digitally.
Dotty Brown, thank you very much for joining us today and being part of, as you have been, the Rowing History Project.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for your hard work on this project, which is really important.